Hi everyone, so if you're new here, I'm Damaris, and today's video is kind of an ultimate guide to doing a no-buy year. So I've got some top tips for doing a no-buy year successfully. So first of all, you might be wondering what a no-buy year is. You might not have heard of it before. So it's basically committing to not spending any money on anything unnecessary for a full year. There are rules or sort of guidelines that you can follow and sort of set yourself, which I'll go through a bit later. So there are a number of different reasons that people decide to do a no-buy year. So it could be to save money, or to get out of debt, to overcome compulsive spending habits, to learn to live with less, for a more minimalist lifestyle, or a more sustainable lifestyle. And I kind of did it for a sort of combination of all of the reasons. I've always been intrigued by the idea of minimalism and living with less, and I know that doing a challenge like the No Spend Challenge, it actually is really good for sustainability as well, because everything that you buy has a carbon footprint. So I just wanted to quickly go through a no-buy year versus a low-buy year. So my understanding is that a no-buy year is a bit more strict than a low-buy year. So if you felt that doing a no-buy year would be a bit too restrictive for you and you would feel like you were missing out, then you could do a low-buy year instead. And all this means is that you've got a bit more flexibility. So if there is something that's sort of considered an unnecessary purchase, you could still allow yourself to buy it under the low buy year. And it just means that you're making more sort of mindful decisions when it comes to buying in general. So first of all, setting yourself some rules. So there's some things that you know you will have to end up paying for during the no-buy year. So that's things like rental, mortgage, general utility bills, regular grocery shopping, car maintenance or sort of other transportation costs, and hygiene items like toothpaste, soap, etc. I definitely recommend continuing to buy things like that for other people's sake, if not your own. So once you've got your first list of things that are considered like essential items, and you know that you have to pay for those regardless of doing this challenge. So next, I would make a second list, which is your sort of exceptions. So I'll show a list of mine, so you have an idea of what you can set yourself as your exceptions. So I had things like secondhand clothing for my children, replacing items if they are broken, website expenses, nutritional supplements, and replacing skincare and makeup if necessary. It turns out I haven't actually had to replace anything, so that's awesome. So next, if you think it would be useful for you, you can also set a list of items that you won't be buying. So say there's certain things that you don't want to buy, like clothes for yourself or home decor items, that sort of thing. So for me, it was books, makeup, clothes for myself, takeaways and eating out, home decor items, plants, and birthday cards. So I decided to make all of my birthday cards and Christmas cards actually this year. So once you've got all of these lists, you'll have an idea about how you're going to do the no spend challenge, things that you will and won't be buying. So of course, when you do it yourself, you might find that you have completely different exceptions to me, which of course is fine. There might be a particular hobby that you like to do, like painting or something, where you may need supplies for that hobby, and that's completely fine. But yes, the challenge is about testing yourself to see if you can go this amount of time without spending money on unnecessary things, but not at the expense of your mental health. You know, you're not taking away anything that you enjoy doing. So yes, I think if you looked at it as you were missing out on something, then it would just be, you'll be less likely to stick to it. So yes, I've just got 10 top tips for completing it successfully. So I would say, first of all, like I said, make sure you have a set plan. Even if you don't necessarily write it down, just know that you've got your groups of essentials, exceptions, just so you've got it clear in your mind what is off limits for the year. Next, I would recommend telling people close to you, your friends and family, that you're doing this challenge, just so that they can support you and you have that sort of accountability. For me, I started documenting it regularly on here on YouTube, but after a while I decided that it was very repetitive and I didn't actually need that accountability. I was quite disciplined with it. My next tip is determine what your usual weaknesses are around shopping and find ways to avoid it. So for me personally, I was big into online shopping, and so I put the eBay Depop app, I think that was it, into a folder on my phone so that I'm not constantly clicking on the apps or looking at them even. So this was really helpful for me. So if, for example, you find that you usually grab lunch on the go because you've not prepared anything the night before, then it's just having that sort of forward planning and making sure that you're not in that situation where you'll be tempted. So make sure that you've got snacks or a packed lunch or some other plan so that you know that you can avoid that food on the go, if that makes sense. Another tip that I've got is unsubscribe from any email newsletters that you may receive. So a lot of these will encourage you to shop because they'll say like a certain percentage off your order. So you go through and you put all of the items into your cart. I'm sure we've all been there, and you think, oh, it's free delivery over this amount, so you keep adding items to the cart to fulfill that full order. And actually, if you hadn't have received that email in the first place, you probably never would have actually gone on and placed this order. So it's definitely something that I have got into the habit of doing this year, and I will continue to do it as soon as, if you sort of sign up to a newsletter for your 10% discount because you are placing an order for something, then I would just recommend afterwards make sure that you unsubscribe. Next, if something breaks, consider if there's actually a way that you can fix it. So of course, some items aren't going to be fixable by yourself, but it's worth just really thinking about it. So if something breaks for me, I consider if I can actually do without it, or if I have something else similar that I could use in its place. And you can even try and get somebody else involved to fix it for you. So if it's like, say, a technology item or something like that, it definitely helps to see if there's a way that you can actually get it repaired. Another tip is that if you do find that you need something, is it something that you can rent or borrow instead? Like quite often, if I'm looking for something in particular, or if one of my friends is looking for something in particular, rather than just immediately going to buying it, we usually ask each other if it's a fancy dress costume for the children or anything really. Usually we will ask each other to see if the other person can help. And some things, of course, you can actually rent as well. So say you were looking for a particular item of clothing for an event, then if you didn't have any friends or family to borrow from, you could also consider renting an outfit to wear for the day. So you may find that you have a lot more free time than you did before. So if you were somebody that in a normal year would go shopping as sort of a hobby, then you might find that you need to replace that with something else so that you're not tempted to slip into sort of old habits. So you can use this time to declutter, which is what I've done, to be fair. If you're interested in the sort of minimalist lifestyle anyway, decluttering feels great. It's so good to just go through section by section and just have a clear out and either sell or give things away to make some space. You could spend more quality time with your friends or family, or you could even take up a new hobby. It just helps to have some sort of distraction to stop you getting bored and slipping back into old habits. It might also be useful if you start to feel a little bit stuck with the challenge. It might be useful to write out the reasons why you're doing it and leave it somewhere where you'll see it, like on the fridge or something like that. It's good to have that reminder of your goals and why you've committed to doing a no buy year in the first place. My next tip is an important one. I would say do not beat yourself up if you slip up and buy something that is not an essential item. I think if you're committed to doing a challenge like this, it can be hard and it can feel like you've completely failed if you do end up buying something and it wouldn't be considered an essential item. But it's so easy to think of it as being a failure, but of course if you think about it in comparison to quitting smoking or doing a diet, just because you make a mistake, it doesn't mean everything's over, you know? So it's just something to bear in mind, that if you do end up slipping up and buying something, it doesn't mean you have to give up altogether. Lastly, I just wanted to do the quote, which is, too many people spend money they haven't earned to buy things they don't want to impress people they don't like. And that's a Will Rogers quote. I thought that one was quite fitting to go along with this video. I may have shared this one before, but it's certainly a great one and worth remembering. So if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy this playlist that I've got here about doing a no buy year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.